Hello and welcome to another episode of the Making It Happen show. I am your host, Kyler Miles, and this is your first time tuning in. On this show, we interview guests about how they're making their dreams, passions, and goals happen. I talk to entrepreneurs, authors, and doctors, or pretty much anyone I get my hands on, about how they're making their ideal life happen. So if you're someone striving for more, looking to grow, especially in today's age, 2020, this is the show for you. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, and this is something you'll want to stay tuned for. On today's episode, I interview Marc Angelo Coppola, who is a philanthropreneur, a farmer, and above all, a storyteller. Marc and I dive deep into how to discover your passion, how to get over what's holding you back in life, and how creativity, mindset, and discipline all plays a huge part in our success. If any of these topics resonate with you, I sincerely advise and recommend you listen to this episode, watch this episode, whatever is the best way you can consume this content. Please do so, and don't be afraid to share, like, subscribe, all those things, because they help us continue to bring more guests on the show and bring you guys more value. So, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Making It Happen podcast. If you're watching this right now, you probably already noticed I'm not in my bedroom. I'm in a completely different place. I'm in the beautiful studio here at the Superhero Academy with my buddy Marc. Marc, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh, man, this studio, if you're watching this right now, it is unbelievable. It's breathtaking. If you have a second, if you're listening, I do apologize, but take a second, look on Instagram, look on the video side, because you want to look at this studio. It's honestly, it's goals for every videographer. Home, we're all working from home, so we all want a studio like this. I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to come on the show and talk to you and just interview you.
I'm flattered to do it. I mean, I'm always excited to. First of all, I'm always excited to podcast. I was actually doing a solo cast right before this, so I was kind of making my own podcast. I'm already warmed up. I'm there. I'm ready. But I love storytelling. I love sharing. I love being able to support other creators. I love meeting other creators and people who are striving to be creators. So the fact that you feel that this is your a step towards a dream studio that you'd want to have, to me is a massive compliment.
Yeah. Honestly, man. And, we've been talking a little bit behind the scenes, of course, and we'll get into the nit and gritty of it, of course. But you've shared a lot and you've done a lot. And I can tell from just looking around your experience, right? But for people listening or watching, let's set the tone and let people know who you are.
Yeah.
And people know who I am. They're done listening to me.
They don't want to hear from you anymore.
They want to hear the questions, but they want to get to you. So why don't you give us a quick little introduction, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. And the reason it's a loaded question is because I would say that I'm a professional storyteller, I'm a philanthropreneur, and I'm a farmer. So let me talk to you about how all three of those come together, because they're very different and people don't really understand what I mean by almost all of them. And then they're like, wait, you're a farmer? They're like, no farmer has this cool of a podcast studio. And I'm here to reinvent farming, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to lie. I'm here to make it cool again.
Yeah.
No. So I've been a passionate storyteller for some time. And what that means is I was in marketing. I learned storytelling from the lens of building brands online, both through kind of the side of web design and development and kind of doing a lot of work there. I was also a professional videographer throughout that whole process. So I was learning everything from Photoshop to code to how do you tell a story by making a website, and through colors and through fonts and through so many different layers of what, storytelling looks like in that way. And I learned videography So I started doing events. I basically started a marketing agency or company without knowing what I was doing. And I never worked at one, despite all the advice that I got from other agency owners. I never worked at one. I just started my own stuff. I did videography. I did a ton of weddings. I filmed all kinds of shitty gigs. I've done all the things that, every videographer dreads in many ways, but I learned. I learned how to use a camera. I learned about capturing light. I learned about capturing stories. And I learned the difference between what good production looks like and what good storytelling looks like over years. And I used that to basically build a movement. And so the movement that I built, well, number one is I built an online school called Superhero Academy. But before that, I actually walked out into the middle of a GMO corn and soya field, declared that I was going to build the school I wanted to go to physically and digitally, and the community I wish I could have grew up in physically and digitally. And I knew nothing about anything. I had never built anything in my life. I knew nothing about solar panels or eco-construction or farming or permaculture or any of the buzzwords that I could say, regenerative agriculture, in all those different ways. But I knew I had to do something about it. And it's because I had watched too many stories. And in particular, I was graduating from university. I'm born and raised here in Montreal, and I was graduating from McGill University, and I basically hated everything about it. I hated every single component about the traditional education system, mainly because I felt like I was sold a lie, and that schooling had gotten in the way in my education in some ways. So I decided on the day of my final exam that I was going to basically watch a documentary a week for 52 weeks straight. And what I noticed and what I saw in common was that we had massive problems and that we needed to do something about them. But they would spend 95% of the time talking about the problem and 5% of the time saying, we have to do something about them. And sometimes they had like some reasonable things that we could do, but I always felt small. I always felt like I couldn't really understand, like, what do I have to do to make this, to see the bigger picture here, but also get granular in what the solution might look and feel like. And I didn't really know it at the time, but it inspired basically me understanding what I consider to be a problem, which is the narrative problem. And it inspired me to then become a philanthropreneur, which is an entrepreneur who solves problems by building companies and ideas that provide value and that, measure the ROI of return on investment, because that's the lifeblood of how companies work in today's day and age, and the other ROI of ripple of impact. And so that's the combination. That's what, that's how I became a farmer. That's how I became a philanthropreneur. And I understood the terminology of that, and I dedicated myself to it. And it's how I created stories like Superhero Academy, like Valhalla Movement, or like Valhalla Farms, and there are co-op farms now. And it's how I built a brand and a presence and a podcast and all these things. It really started all out of that. Superhero Academy started as a podcast, and it for Valhalla, for the farm, and for the movement that we were building, and it expanded over time. And so I've just been at it ever since. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 18. I'm 32 now, so since 2007 is when I started. In 2010, I sold my first business, did a bunch of stuff. I can keep rambling. I've got some experience. Put it that way.
Yeah, no doubt, honestly. And thank you so much for explaining that and sharing with us. And something really common that I get on the show and that I read in the comments, and some things that I look up myself, and kind of the goal for this podcast is people always want that dream, that success, and we'll get into your definition of success later.
Sure.
And the term that I call making it, which is making your dreams a reality or making it happen.
Yep.
Obviously, from the outside perspective, like I said, this looks like a dream. This is my dream. I have a studio and an apartment or a place or house like this where I'm full-time creating and feeling passionate about what I'm creating and impacting people. I can see that in you, and I can hear in your voice, and everything and all your experiences have led you to this point. A lot of people have the challenge of starting, have the challenge and fear of actually going for it. And, controversial, my opinion, with COVID-19, a lot of people, if you're lucky to be healthy during this time, was given an opportunity, if you were let go, to pursue that dream, to learn something, a new skill.
Absolutely. Particularly if you're living in Canada right now.
Yes.
You basically got the lifetime opportunity to step into your dreams and your passions, without a doubt.
And don't get me wrong, I know lots of people that's been affected by it. And
of course,
the people I'm talking to, the people that are healthy, that are okay, and I want to put that on record. But the question is for these people, how do you start? So many people want to start a business. It is now the cool thing, like Gary Vee says, to be an entrepreneur, put it in their Instagram bio. I know I did when I was 18.
Yep.
I was not, and I'm still not, but I'm working towards that goal.
Mm-hmm.
You started all these ventures. You started a business. You started learning videography, photography, code, like so much. I mean, you just spent the first big chunk of time explaining everything you've done. How do you start? Where do you start? What advice do you have for people to pursue their passion and their dream? It's a hard question.
It's not. It's not. The implementation can be hard only because it's hard to maintain consistency within it. You start with your calendar. You start with your time. What are you spending your time doing? Who are you spending your time with? What are you distracting yourself with? What are you spending time doing that you don't need to be doing and could be pursuing it? Look, everyone has an excuse in some way, shape, or form, including me, right? Including me. We have an excuse. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough talent. I don't have enough this, enough that. I'm not enough. And that's just nonsense. Because I think that we all have the same amount of time. And if I were to compare the effectiveness of my time versus somebody like Elon Musk, well, I'm pretty sure he's working a little harder than I am. Now, I work my fucking ass off. And I'm not sure if I can swear on this podcast.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
No problem.
All right.
All good. Swear all you want.
Okay, great. Perfect. Yeah. I work my ass off. I really spend an enormous amount of time doing what I would consider to be working on my art. I see this as an art. It's an art form for me, at least. And I've learned that over time. But at the end of the day, actions express priorities, and your calendar expresses the priorities of your actions. What you are spending your time doing on a day-to-day basis and how you map or plan and schedule your time is probably the first place I would start. Next thing, stop pretending that everyone else's journey is somehow your journey. That somehow my answer is relevant to you. It is to some degree. Like, it's great. It's a great story. You're happy to hear it. It's inspiring. You can feel a particular way. Everyone can listen to a Gary Vee, what should I do on Monday morning, or Mondays fucking suck versus Mondays fucking rock kind of mentality. Sure, those are incredibly impactful, and there's value to it.
It's motivation.
Yeah,
right?
I do it for a living. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say I do motivational content. I don't think Gary would either. But I storytell. And I understand the context of what I'm in, and I understand that this is Main Street right here, and for those who are just listening to the audio, I'm pulling out my phone and I'm basically showing that we gain information from Main Street. We are influenced very, very powerfully from what is happening on our phones and our screens. And so I just started. It's as simple as that. I came up with an idea, I committed to it, and I said, what am I going to do today to get a little bit closer? And I seriously, honestly see it as, if you can do a single task a day towards your dream, you are going to get there way faster than you think. And that might seem frivolous, but the truth is, if you can accomplish a task every single day and you can build that consistency, and that's the hard part, the consistency, then yes, other layers are hard part. You eventually have to get good at storytelling. You have to tell your story 1,000 times over and refine it over and over and over again. You eventually have to get good at, like, who do you trust? Who do you work with? Who do you partner with? Who needs to be on this journey, right? It's a hero's journey. But every single hero's journey starts by you starting. And that doesn't mean that you know the destination. In fact, most hero's journeys destination is right where you started. If you have ever followed, a hero's story, or if you kind of know how a Disney movie goes or a superhero movie goes, at the end of the day, you don't know where you're going to start or where you're going to end up. But the point is that you just go on the journey. Now, sometimes that journey is catalyzed. You lost your job, you had something, and so you create this scenario. You have to start, and a lot of people do well with pressure. So the second thing I'll say is find somebody who's done the thing you want to do, and hire them, work with them, get them as a mentor, mimic them, learn from them, study them, obsess about them. Whatever level of that you want to do, do that. If you know somebody who's gone the distance, whether 10 steps ahead of you or 2 steps ahead of you or only half a step ahead of you, follow those people. Like, be a follower for a minute. And I say not a follower meaning just a consumer, but be a follower from the perspective of, you know less than this person, and be humble within that, and then learn from those people. And, you know, I could go on as how you continue, but I think those are the two solid answers.
I love that. And that's the first time I've ever heard someone say, start with a calendar. You know, I hear a lot, obviously with this podcast, I talk about this a lot. So I'm very curious around this because I'm someone that always feels like I'm stopping things, you know?
Sure.
And I feel like that's natural for people to do. And you know, figuring out what kind of gets them going and what's their passion in, right? And always trying to find those, but looking at your calendar and actually saying like, what do I spend my time on? And when I was in that spot,
yeah,
I got laid off. I moved to Montreal,
Sure.
got laid off at my job after 3 months, and I had all the time in the world. And this is before COVID. And what was I doing? I was on Instagram, but what was I looking at? I was looking at photographers.
Sure.
Big, small, looking at photos. And it wasn't like photos of pretty women. It was actually like landscapes and interviews and maybe a few. But yeah, but it was the photography, it was the art, right? And I love that you said that. Look at what you're spending your time on. It's so important. People don't realize how important that is.
I agree.
Going back to a little bit of your story, you talked about earlier how you graduated McGill. You hated the educational system. I feel like a lot of people can probably agree that they took a few classes that were not valuable at all for the money that they paid.
Sure.
I mean, half of the classes I don't remember taking. I didn't go to McGill. I went to a college in Vancouver, a very good college, but some classes I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't need to learn this at all.
Agree.
So for those people who, you know, went to the corporate world, because that's what I did. I went into sales.
I get it.
And stumbled across this, right? How do you get over, you know, that fear? Because people don't start for a reason. And a big part of my belief is this fear of either others, fear of themselves that they're going to fail, fear of letting down their parents. Fear is such a thing that's holding us back. Was there anything in your life that was holding you back? You said 18. I mean, it's very young to start, but could you have started earlier? Was there any roadblocks?
I think I did start earlier. You know what I mean? I think 18 was like the official. I was running a business that had a legal corporation name and all the different things. But I definitely started earlier. I started earning money on PayPal, or I say PayPal, eBay, and you know, through PayPal and stuff that wasn't even in my name because I wasn't old enough to have a credit card. I wasn't old enough to even have a business in a way.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You asked a question, but I think there's a flaw in the question. And it's because there's a flaw in the assumption that somehow I'm over my fear. And
it's true.
I'm just afraid of something different than you are. I'm afraid of being normal. I'm afraid of having a 9 to 5. I'm afraid of not living my potential. I'm afraid of not doing this. I'm afraid of having to sit in traffic both directions to get to and from work. I don't think I'm less afraid. I'm just more willing to do what I want to do. And I realize my life is limited and that I'm going to die. Like, you know, the Gary V, you're going to die. Like, I love that. But it's true. What more motivation do I need than I'm living in this magical reality? Nothing makes sense. I'm speaking into a freaking piece of hunk of metal that somehow is transferring through a cord into a machine that's going to be broadcast across who knows what, how it works. Right? Like, sure, yeah, some engineer can explain all these different things and how all these lights are turned on. It's magic. So I'm living in a magical time. Why am I not going to go after my magical pursuits? Like, I'm here to share my gifts and to learn about my superpowers and to bring my gifts to the world. That's my version of freedom. That's my version of the culture I want to create around me and for me. And so I call that freedom culture. It's like, that's what I'm motivated by in many ways, to take my gifts and to help spread and empower and encourage all individuals to spread their unique gifts to the world. That's the mission statement of Superhero Academy. That's the mission statement of our farm. That's the mission statement of me as a storyteller. That's the mission statement of everything I do. So how do I get over the fear? I befriended it. I got comfortable being uncomfortable to a limit because I have an edge somewhere. And then I do it again. And I do it again. And I do it again and again and again, over and over and over again. Right? And so I didn't start here. Like, I didn't start with like, oh, here's the perfect studio and like all the crazy things. And it's not even perfect. In my mind, it's far from. Because that's the point. So I just get comfortable doing things that I wasn't comfortable doing. I didn't know nothing about audio. to the point where there's two things right here that I'm not even using because I was like, fuck it, this thing took me too much time and it's too finicky. Let me switch to the Rodecaster. You know what I mean? Like, so like this setup is indicative of my learning curve. And it's great. Like I know how to use it now, and there's value to it. And if I needed to do an 8-piece band, it's perfect. This preamp is perfect. You know what I mean? But I don't. You know what I mean? I wanted something simpler, and so I'm playing. Yeah, I'm a kid in a sandbox playing. I was a kid who walked out on the farm and played, and I'm a kid now at 32 years old, still playing, still trying, still doing. So I do things that are uncomfortable all the time. And I just seek that discomfort. You know, I love the creators, Yes Theory, and their brand that they created, their online clothing brand and stuff. When I say online, their clothing brand and their presence, because that's the truth of it. I just start saying yes. I just start like believing in myself and having that confidence. Now, do I have more confidence than other people? Maybe. Did I grow up in an environment where I'm like fortunate and, you know, I had a safety net and I grew up in Canada and I won the genetic lottery in so many ways? Sure. Am I privileged? Yes. Do I acknowledge it? Yes. And what am I doing about it? Like, when I just sit here and just like, oh, well, sorry that I was born a white male, or am I just gonna be like, yeah, I was, and yet now I'm using it for good. I'm using it to like empower as many people as possible. I'm using it to spread my gifts. I'm using it to be the person who I am, unapologetically. Now that person struggles. That person still I still struggle. I still have true challenges. I still get angry. Yeah. I'm still human. Right? Yeah. So at the end of the day, I have just as much fear as you do. It's just at a different level for different things.
I like that.
But I put me in a kitchen and say I have to cook for like 50 people. No, you're going to watch me crumble. Be like, yeah, no. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I have a different fear and a different comfort zone and a different skill set than other people. And so if your skill set is that you're capable of dealing with like sitting in line at the drive-thru at Tim Hortons and going in traffic in both directions, man, you are conquering a fear that I have. I hate printers. I hate tape. I hate traffic.
What did tape ever do to you?
Nothing good. Yeah, absolutely nothing good in my opinion. No, I mean, it's just like, look, I get annoyed too, and I have fears too.
No, you're right though. We all have different fears, right?
Exactly.
And I know in my experience, that was a big fear of mine. Like growing up, I was fearful to speak in public, let people know that I had trouble speaking, you know, for a long time growing up. So 100%, I love the drive that you have. Like I can just see and hear it, right? For a lot of people, sometimes they don't know where they want to go. They're not sure what direction to go. They're kind of like finding Nemo. They're not sure, you know, where to go, and always, oh, hi, nice, you know what I mean? And always doing different things, right? Have you ever felt that? You like that?
No, it's very accurate.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me that either in DMs, personal relationships, what have you. Not sure. And if you watch Gary Vee content, you probably already know this answer, but I want to just hear it from you. How do you know what direction you want to go? Obviously, you're right? You get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that is the best area to learn. That's friction. That's how you learn, right?
Yep.
And if you didn't see, I'm putting my fists together.
Those who watched the video definitely saw it, which is great. I'm on it. I'm video switching. I'm running the whole show here.
I know you're doing a good job. This is the easiest podcast I had to do.
Very fun.
Yeah. Like, have you ever felt like you don't know where you're going?
Of course.
Goes through that.
I think I feel this regularly. You know what I mean? Look, I'm my superpower is big vision thinking, long-term thinking, and building ecosystems. My understanding is of other people's superpowers and being able to combine those superpowers into ecosystems. And that's what I've learned from nature. It's what I learned from farming. I would say that, in fact, almost everything I know about the world seems to relate back to some level of what I can learn on farm. And which is, you know, it's a humbling experience. It's humbling to be a farmer. I'll say that. It's very, 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 very difficult. It's the hardest job in the world. It's the hardest business on the planet to ever start. This is easy. Like what I do now, like this, storytelling and video switching and like running this, this is easy. Go make rows and plant garlic and like make
No, thank
gardens.
you.
Yeah, no, it's just not pleasant in some ways. And it's incredibly rewarding and it's pleasant in another way. So have I made a ton of mistakes? Absolutely. Have I gone down different pathways and like dead ends? Absolutely. Have I spent a ton of money and failed? Absolutely. I don't always know where I'm going, but I have a destination in mind in certain scenarios and I just kind of stick to it. And I focus on what am I doing today? Like, what am I doing today? It's getting me a little bit closer. What do I feel today? And how does that change? How does that shift? And I take time to reevaluate. Psychedelics help. I'll say that.
Nice.
For me, a huge support system and navigation system and reset button for me. Mentorship helps. Having people who have walked a path before me and are smarter than me and better than me or further than me, more successful than me in whatever category that means or what that looks like, I guess. Guidance helps in those ways. And then trying stuff. I'm gifted with natural born confidence. I'm willing to try it. And when I try, if I really like something, I obsess about it. And I get like really down into the details. And like, even looking at this, it's like the white balances are a little bit off and one camera is a little bit darker than the other, just automatically adjusting, blah, 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 blah. I can get obsessed. Absolutely obsessed with this stuff. And so I make it better. And I look to make it better, whatever better means for me at that moment. And so I navigate on a day-to-day basis, but I make plans and I look at my calendar and I put it in those calendar.
Yeah.
Both short-term, medium-term, long-term. And I could walk you through the mechanics of that, but you have to determine this for yourself. Your way of planning and scheduling has to be determined for yourself. We can give you ideas, right? We can all read the 4-hour work week, but if we don't implement it, and most won't, then, so you take little nuggets and you start implementing, right? There was little things that I took away from the 4-hour work week that I still do to this day, right? I try and batch, right? That was one of the lessons I learned. Batching is a really good idea. Great. You know what I mean? Like outsourcing. Wow. What a fucking concept that was. You know what I mean? Like, but it was a major concept in his book. Outsource. You know what I mean? Remove the fact that you need to make small decisions and empower, other people in your organization to make small decisions under a certain amount of money or things like that. Those are all things and concepts that came from the book. But is Tim Ferriss and the way his life runs the way that I need to run my life? No, we're overvaluing other people and their advice rather than our experience. And our experience only comes with your time, your energy, your attention, your life force directly being involved in the thing that you say you want to be doing. That's it.
Couldn't agree more. Honestly. And that is a good book. If you have not read it, I mean,
sure,
come on, it's one of the ones that should be on your bookshelf,
Well, I definitely have it, yes.
You said
picked it up in years, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I need a refresher, honestly.
Sure.
I'm one of those people that, especially in the last few years, since I've came across this new passion of mine for videography, is obsessed with self-development, the mindset, right? And really learning how that is the foundation of so much of, like the icons and the celebrities and the successful entrepreneurs we've been talking about today.
Sure.
That their mindset, right, is just like a muscle. Or just like working the farm, and you have to do it every day. It's something you have to work at every day. And I'm learning this process. And I wonder if you have any day-to-day practices, because you mentioned something that I really like. You said, talking about the calendar, so that's your daily activity, but then that long-term vision, right?
Yep.
Balancing the macro with the micro.
Yep. And
why don't we talk a little bit about that, right? Because I think that's where the magic happens, as you said. The day-to-day hustle. Quoting Gary V, working towards your goal, take one task at a time. And then when you can master that task, take 2 tasks, 3 tasks, etc. Right.
Yep.
And then long-term vision, reaching that mission, that ultimate goal, making it right. So walk me through the mindset of that process for you and what you do on a day-to-day basis and what people can learn from what you do, right? Because you obviously have done a lot for yourself, right? That people can learn from.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm curious about that for selfishly. Like, what can I do in my life so that I can get to a spot where I'm comfortable in a studio like this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing I would say is there's a nuance between, like, I don't think that people fully know or understand the balance or the difference between planning and scheduling. So I'm going to start there. What I do on a macro level is I plan I strategize, and I think about where do I want to get to and what are the implications of these things, right? What does that look like and feel like in so many different ways when it comes to me building and creating the lifestyle and the destination that I want to get to.
Mm.
And then scheduling is the art of, on a systematic basis, placing that plan through a process that I do, which is like I do brain dumps on Mondays or Sunday nights or Mondays before 9 a.m. essentially on Monday. I write down all the things I can think of, and I pen and paper style. Pen and paper, write all the things that are just on my mind that I have been thinking about that I have to do. I take that, I put it into my calendar, which then says that I'm prioritizing specific tasks, and it lets me know what I'm prioritizing. And certain things are time sensitive, and certain things need to get to a client or to someone, and I'm accountable to. Certain things just have to happen in a particular time frame, so you just make them happen. So some things kind of schedule themselves in a way, or you still have to plan them. But I do that religiously. And then I also plan to have longer term deep dives where I look inwards or I look outwards or around at the macro. And so a lot of people kind of like wait for, I don't know, they wait for New Year's or something to do that, right? Like how many people were like waiting for this future time where it's like, oh, well, maybe in 2021. Yeah. I'm like, wait a second, it's still 2020. What are you talking about? Like, why are you on 2021? It's November. You know what I mean? In this case. So I do this on equinoxes and solstices. I reset. I look at where I'm at, what I'm doing, what is the sprint that I've done. I realize that there's a little sprints within the marathon that is my life and that is my career. And so I look at those different sprints, I look at the different destinations, and then I reflect upon it. I have a coach and I have a mentor who I hire, who I work with, who I've been working with for years, and many, many mentors, many people. I've had people come in and out. Sometimes I go to an event or this, that, or the other, whatever. I'm inspired. You know what I mean? But I always break it down to I systematically plan and I systematically schedule. And then within all of that, I have days that are creative. So like today is a Wednesday, it's a creative day. So the reason why I was doing a solo cast right before this is because it's a creative day. I'm only going to work on creative endeavors. Now I had my assistant here and I'm teaching her like, okay, we're going to make more written content. Here's the format. I'm teaching her that stuff. But that's still part of my creativity. I'm bringing her up to speed to get more content out the door because I'm obsessed with attention real estate and I understand it's undervalued and underpriced right now. I put it this way: sometimes some things Gary Vee says first, and some things I say first. And that's what I'll say. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, look, I understand a lot. I have a very similar perspective to him in terms of what is happening in our culture and where we're getting into information and the value of this and the value of a podcast in a studio and what this looks like. So I'm motivated by that too. Right. And I'm motivated to constantly put that into action and into a plan, like I said, and a schedule that just dictates those priorities. And I know that sounds like so unsexy. I could have like given a way more sexy answer to this. But I don't think entrepreneurship is always sexy. I think there's a lot of.
It's not Lambos and cars. It's not
Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. So it's I mean, beyond that, I don't know. I feel we can give 1,000 answers really.
So you actually schedule your creative days. Wednesday, today's your creative day.
Yeah, I schedule, like, put it this way. I schedule, I give themes to my days. Right. So like Mondays is a great day for me to coordinate with my team. So if I have a bunch of people, like a designer, a developer, my assistant,
you're batching. Sounds like, right?
Yeah. Well, no, but it's not even just batching. It's like, I know that on Monday they need marching orders. They need to know what I'm prioritizing, what I've decided over the weekend or over whatever, time frame that this is what needs to happen. So then I coordinate with them. I'm making sure that all their cans are getting kicked down the road. Great. So now I've maximized my efficiency by getting them moving. Then from there, I'm like, okay, so Mondays, and then I'll do a couple of client things or I'll start diving into whatever it is. I plan and schedule, of course, before all of this, Monday morning. So I know what I need to prioritize and I make sure that those things are in my calendar and I do those things, try to do them first if I can, but not always. Tuesdays and Thursdays tend to be client days. So I do a lot of consulting. I still have clients or I still have people I help, even if it's for free. So I just deal with people. I do calls. Anybody wants to do a call with me, I'll do it on a Tuesday or Thursday, and within set hours. And I'm pretty strict about it, but I'm not militant. And then I also, I build in creative days, like Wednesday, and I build in Friday is more of like a cleanup day. Right now, Friday this year and Saturday this year at the farm. I'm at the farm all day. So being a farmer for me is partially what I'm doing during the week, because I also do the paperwork. I'll do legal, of the finance, of the accounting. You know what I mean? So running the farm has a lot of components. It's not just me physically shoveling. So I'm the director of the farm, and that requires me to do kind of half paperwork and half farm work. So 2 days a week I go on the farm and I spend a lot of time there. I do meetings there, I make content there. I learn about life there. I laugh there. I have fun there. And then Sundays I try and rest. I say try because I'm not great at it. Yeah, but I have fun, and I've gotten better at reprioritizing as well. You know what I mean? Like, I think lately I've had a pretty big awakening of like, what are my real priorities now that I've it's like, I feel like I'm getting to the top of my version of Everest. And there's another Everest in the distance. Like there's the next one. And
there's always another one.
There always will be. And that's the beauty of it. It's not the destination, it's the journey, right? And the cliche as that is, pardon my cliche. But the capacity for me to, the capacity for me to like gain more ground in the world of like traditional success is there, but I'm not particularly focused on it. And now I'm particularly focused on routines around my health. So I have a personal trainer. I'm working out every day, every single day. I'm eating better. I mean, look, I was a farmer that was not eating anything from my farm in a way. Not really, but you know what I mean? Like I wasn't, it's like, it's almost like I had a lifestyle or a diet that like nothing, had nothing to do with what I was really doing on the farm. But it's because the farm is part of a bigger vision of building community. It's part of it's part of a larger vision of, it's a play in real estate. It's a play in regeneration of soil. It's a play against, or a hedge against a bunch of different challenges our world is facing. And more importantly, it's a movement that is necessary. And so I just believe that there's, many, many layers to why I believe farming is incredibly important. And the top 6 inches of topsoil is the number one priority that we have to fix on the planet. But look, I won't get into that. I'll say that, I was never the type to be like, oh, I have to meditate this amount and I have to like journal this amount and I have to do this amount. I just got up and worked for years. Just get up, put it on my calendar, put it on my schedule, fucking work. Like just do it, go, grind, next one, task. And I got efficient at it. And I started to learn what efficiency meant. And efficiency meant, hey, you want to meet with me and you need my time for free? Come to the farm and help me shovel. Or else sign up over here or pay this or join the online school or do whatever you know what I mean? Like I've done my work to teach what I believe or what's worked for me. And if people want to subscribe to that, then hit subscribe, you know what I mean? Like quite literally just hit subscribe and you'll learn if you want to. But that requires your attention and your time, and you want the shortcut. Great. Either you come help me shovel. That's the cheapest way. It's the easiest, fastest path to getting my, I don't want to say undivided attention, but very good attention. Yeah. Because, there's not much else I'm going to do. And it's a very good distraction to talk with people.
So we'll drop the address of the farm in the.
Sure. You know where the links are. You've watched enough podcasts and YouTube. You know where the links are, ladies and gentlemen.
I love that. I struggle with, I've tried that to set my days of being creative, and where I've noticed where I need to improve on is that mindset, that day to day, like you said, you're working out every day. You have mentors maybe work with on a weekly or whatever basis, and working on your mindset so that you can be creative those days. Because when I was learning, and still am, I thought creativity was just, comes and goes, and to a degree, sometimes you just get an idea, right? In the shower, in the 3 a.m. And it's like, okay, I got to get up and write this down or else I'm going to forget it.
It's one of the ways creativity shows up. Yes.
Yeah. But I do believe, and I think you believe this, I'm making this assumption that it is something you flex, is something you work at.
Absolutely.
And creativity, even if you're not people say they're not creative, but I came into this industry knowing nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm doing this full time. I'm a content manager at a company here in Montreal, and I make content.
Nice.
And I didn't go to school for it. I didn't like yourself, right? It's just self-taught off YouTube.
Yeah.
That's 100%,
Yeah.
99%.
Yeah.
You know, from YouTube, from people, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to that creative mindset and also the muscle.
Yeah.
How do you flex those muscles? You talked about mentorship. Is there anything else that you do? Do you have a daily morning routine that sets your mind for the day? Is there any practices? Because you're the guy that schedules things, right? So,
Yeah.
and now I'm trying to think about, oh, this is awesome, right? How do you schedule your morning to make sure you have that best day?
How do I schedule my morning?
If you schedule your morning.
I don't schedule my mornings. I do try and wake up at a consistent time. I do try and, at this point, work out at a consistent time. Only because it makes my life easier in terms of planning and scheduling around it, honestly. No, I think people overvalue morning routines and they focus too much on their morning routine. And the problem is that you're setting yourself up for potential failure. So that it's like, oh, I can only be creative and I can only be at my best if I did my morning routine. But the likelihood that they do the morning routine is the same likelihood that they're going to sign up to the gym on January 1st and still be there on March 31st, March 30th, or whatever day, you know what I mean? It's just the same likelihood because most people struggle with consistency and accountability. So, you know, the easiest way for me to make sure people depend on me. I have bills to pay. I have things to do. Like this studio doesn't pay itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's costs money. There's lights still, you know, there's burning electricity in the background. And I keep it on all day because it has to be on all day.
Yeah.
Other than at night when I go to sleep or whatever. But, you know, there's accountability in everything that I do. And so people are dependent on me. I have something on my calendar. They're expecting to see me at a particular time. You know, if I wasn't ready when you showed up here at this time, I have to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So then everything acts accordingly. And if you're busy enough, at some point, it's just happening. You just have to wake up and do it. So now, how do I find a motivation to do that? Number one, I try and like not consume as much. You know what I mean? But I say that and I consume an enormous amount of content. An enormous amount at all times. Mm-hmm. I'm sleeping and I'm listening to podcasts, like for real. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's. So I'm consuming a lot, but I'm creating. I try and balance my creator time and my consumption time. You know, so how do I get into the creative mindset? Well, I measure my success rather than how many views I get on the video. I measure my success on how many times I press record. I just break it down into simpler metrics because I know that every time I press record, I'm learning something and I'm getting better at content creation. I'm getting better at telling stories. I'm getting better at doing these different components. So I break down where I want to go, what I want to see happen in my life, what skills I want to develop, what superpowers I want to become real superpowers and not just talents or skills. I just work at them. And yeah, I subscribe to the 10,000 hour mentality. I also subscribe to, if you find somebody who's done 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 hours, you will accelerate that. Mm-hmm. You can accelerate your learning curve so that by the time you get to your 10,000 hours, is the equivalent of somebody who did 20. You know what I mean? Because I didn't, like, when I started learning videography, YouTube and like the Peter McKinnon's, Casey Neistat didn't exist. They existed physically, but they didn't exist. You know what I mean? Like they didn't
dropped
exist.
On the face of the earth.
They just, the bar was not there, and it was a golden age in another way that I wish I had spent more time on, and I wish I continued to be more consistent in my content creation already. And so, and I'll go back to you're gonna die. So I'm here to create art, to tell stories. I'm clearly good at it. You know how I know you're good at it? If you're listening to this podcast right now,
listen real closely.
If you're listening still, then you know I'm good at it. Because that's the only reason you're listening. Yeah. Because I know how to be engaging and I've learned something, but I know I could be better. You know, and I need people to tell me that. I need people to tell me like, that was okay. You know what I mean? Like, or you kind of rambled, or you're a little, no, you're a little conceited, your ego is flaring. Like whatever, but whatever it is, I value the criticism more than I do the compliments. To a fault in certain moments, but I've gotten better. Again, I've gotten better at prioritizing my life, and so now I value love and intimacy in a very different way. I mean, the name there. Would you see it? Oh, maybe on this angle right over here, you kind of see the shadow of this this cactus over here. The name of this cactus is Into Me I See, meant to represent intimacy, right? How I show up with you, how I show up in any relationship is a huge factor of my success. More importantly, it's a huge factor of my happiness and the relationship I get to build with you, right? So it's like I could give you an hour of my time, but that hour of my time in terms of quality, well, how do I measure that? And what does that success look like there? What does creativity look like there? And so creativity for me looks like, well, I'm going to take my superpower and my gear that enables my superpower, or is a friction, or is a part of my superpower. It's like a tool of my superpowers. And I'm going to gift it to you. And really, you're gifting it to me. This is more impactful for me than it is in a way. I mean, look, it's for sure impactful for you. But it's super impactful for me too, because I'm getting to be intimate with your audience. And whether that audience is 3 people and your mom or 1,000 people, that doesn't matter. And I'm back to, I keep referencing Gary Vee, and it's how I discovered you. I saw you appeared on a Gary Vee video or whatever, the Q&A or some kind.
Yeah, Tea with Gary Vee.
Yeah. So I saw that, and so I'm bringing that reference because I know you follow, obviously. But the capacity to like show up on a podcast, big or small, and to just show up over and over and over again and recognize that every one of these opportunities is an opportunity for me to tell the story. And I've clearly told this story before. I've clearly answered some of these questions before. Now I'm giving different answers in certain scenarios. But when I talk about I walked down in the middle of a GMO cornfield and planted a tree, I've clearly said that story before. And I'm saying it at a cadence and a pace with certain highlights and certain things because I know what is important to hear and what they, whatever, and so on and so forth. But I get tired of it myself too. So that's the other thing I'll say is I just like do new shit regularly. I try and mix it up.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so I like what you said. We talked a lot about your definition of success. I think that was definitely, and something I'm still trying to work on is defining that, because like that, speaking in this event, when I was on Tea with Gary Vee, I got some people, new followers, I got some clout, people asking me how they should live their life. I don't know. Yeah. And it was very humbling, but very quickly, I actually stopped creating for a bit, kind of got fearful of what if that's the top? What if I plateaued?
You peaked at being a guest on Gary Vee.
And it's true. And these fears, I think a lot of people have, and it's self-doubt, right? Sure. But coming back full circle to defining what your success is, you said it yourself. It's not about the followers, the likes, and the comments. It's your interpersonal relationships. It's how many times you press record. I like that. Yeah. I was thinking the other day the same thing when I want to make 100 videos, double the videos I made this year. I want to make double them next year. But why wait, right? You said that. Why wait for New Year's?
Absolutely.
And I'm guilty of that. I was like, oh yeah, I'll start January 1st.
And I'll go even a step further. Why set the bar low by trying to leave this year's videos lower than it should be? If you can make 10 videos more, that means you're going to have to make 20 more next year between now and the end of the year. So why leave the bar low?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So I'll be back here tomorrow night.
No problem. Sure. Start paying rent next week. Perfect.
Send me the bill. No, it's so nice to be around, and with COVID, it's been very tough to connect with other people, of course, for obvious reasons. And it's nice that we're actually here to connect and actually build that relationship and meet other creatives and learn something. Before we went on this podcast, I met one of your videographers showing me a video, and I was so impressed, and I was like, it got me excited for video.
Shout out Gabrielle.
Yeah. Awesome content, man. Yeah. And it's so true. And I'm referencing a lot of things, what you said during this episode.
Sure.
Of bringing yourself around people that you want to be.
Absolutely.
Mentors. You hired someone to help you train. It's accountability. Totally. I love that. The minute that, you have accountability to an audience, to relationship, like your trainer to a mentor, you are going to get out of the off the couch and do it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I say this story all the time, but I'll say it here because I think it's relevant. Two people walk into the gym on January 1st. One person buys a $50 membership, get access to the entire gym. They can access it all year round, right? $50 a month, though. They have to pay. Okay, fair, reasonable price.
Not bad.
Decent gym. Yeah, there's
Mhm.
cheaper ones, whatever. Second person walks into the gym, $500 a month. Same gym, same equipment. They also get a personal trainer. They're going to work with that personal trainer twice a week. Who do you think is still in the gym on March 30th? Who do you think is still in the gym on December 31st? Who do you think is going to get closer to six-pack abs? Even if both of them go the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
They spend the same amount they do the same workouts.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you bet on?
The second one with the trainer.
Right? So which one are you?
Right now, not the trainer,
Sure.
not that one. Yeah.
So, so
Mm-hmm.
I say this story because everyone says they want six-pack abs.
Mm-hmm.
And we all like make it about, but I need the equipment. I need this and They make it about everything
Mhm.
else, right? Videographers and creators, we make it all about the gear.
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time. Oh, I need the gear. I need blah, blah, blah. And I've lived
Yeah.
that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's a number of times I press record and a number of times I press upload.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two very different things. One is record means I had to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Upload means I had to have the confidence to just say, fuck it, it's good enough.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so those two metrics
Mm-hmm.
are very interesting metrics that I measure. And so for me, the metric that I measure when I hire a personal trainer, his name is Charo. The metric, for me is I wake up and I'm going to pay him regardless and pay him up front. So if I don't show up at the 8 a.m. workout, rain or shine, that's on me.
Mm.
He's getting paid. He's doing what he has to do. And as long as he shows up and he has the integrity, which he does, because it's his job,
Mm-hmm.
and it's my job to show up.
Mm.
It's my job to do the work. And so I don't always want to do it. There's so many days I don't want to do it,
Of course.
right? But there's so many more I do. And when I do it, even on the days I didn't want to do it, the likelihood that I feel really happy about it later is very high.
I just had a podcast with another friend of mine, and he was saying, and he's a fitness trainer and a coach, and he was saying, I've never heard someone be upset that they work. You know what? I'm so mad that I worked out today.
Sure.
You could be mad that you're sore.
Oh,
I
sure.
worked out hard. Like, oh, geez. But no one's ever walking around upset that they worked out. They are more bragging. Oh, I'm sore. I've done the same thing.
Look, the only reason I have a trainer is because you've seen it on Instagram. So yeah, we all have some level of that share.
Oh yeah.
And it's part of my brand. It's part of what I do. I tell stories within it. I'm not just posting my workout.
You're documenting your journey.
I'm documenting my journey, exactly.
Mhm.
And more importantly, I'm telling a lot of other stories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling the story of Charo, who's my trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling the story of like my dedication to things. I'm telling the story of why I have a personal trainer.
Mm.
And what that does for me and what that means to my brand, you know what I mean? And what it means to me and what it means to my mindset. So yeah, I don't know. I've just gotten over my bullshit. You know what I mean? And nobody cares. Nobody cares about my bullshit. Nobody cares about my fears. Nobody hears my fears. Nobody's like, oh my God, you pressed upload on that? Wow, I can't believe it. I'm never going to watch you again. And if that's the person, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Honestly.
Like you don't watch my shit again.
Yeah.
And guess what? That person, the likelihood that person won't watch my shit again is so high. Because even haters love to hate. And I don't give a shit. That's a view. That's a like. That's a comment. That's an engagement. That's fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
In the world of online attention economy, whatever you have to say,
Mm-hmm.
you're watching my shit and I'm not watching yours.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me who's
like
winning.
Gary Vee said, if someone's taking the time to spit venom on your, like, I took a second out of my day to tell you sucked or you're ugly or you're this.
The compliment, because you still watch my shit.
Yeah. I don't get that. When I saw that from Gary, I was like, he's so right.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to get upset. And it's so funny. One of my videos on TikTok went viral.
Nice.
And it was something, just a common trend video. It was funny with my girlfriend, whatever. And so many people, were just like hating. It's like, you guys are not even like a good looking couple, whatever. And we're laughing. We're like, we're just having fun, and it's so crazy. And I hope that they can get over what they're going through. If you're spitting that venom,
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, power to them. You know what I mean? Like anyone takes the time to hate to people they don't know, or like it's one thing to give advice to a friend or to be like, I think you're, maybe whatever. It's particularly something that's like directly impacting me. Like you did something that then fucked my shit. Okay, I can, there's some people deserve to be scolded or just to hold off every once in a while. You can flip the bird every once in a while. I think there's value to that.
Yeah.
And anyone's going to take the time to spew hate, they're just wasting their life. Yeah. Their life energy. It's highly doubt they plan to schedule that on their calendar. You know what I mean?
And I've seen your posts, your workouts. You're pretty shredded, my man. Your trainer's doing pretty, he's doing a good job.
And you doing a good job, and so am I guess. Yeah. It's crazy, but I'm like 50, 60% of the way of where I think it could be, where I want to be, I guess. So this back to, this is just the next Everest.
Yeah. As we're coming to a close, of this has been just an incredible conversation. And I know I've come out of it learning a lot, right? And also realizing some of the thoughts I had coming into the conversation, are good. Like I'm in the right direction, which is nice. And it made me rethink a lot. What I like to do kind of near the end of the podcast is understand what you believe is making it happen. What does it mean for you? And to sum up our conversation, what advice or either a recap or a last minute thing you like to tell people is the goal of this is I want to help people start the process of making their dreams happen. And I believe I'm on that journey and I'm trying to document that journey. I don't know how. I'm not pretending like I'm the expert. I'm bringing people like yourself and showcasing my work ethic and what I'm trying to do to become that.
Well, you're documenting your journey.
Yeah. I'm making it happen. That's my definition.
I'm about I didn't want to like throw your own zinger at you, but yeah. That's 100%. That's exactly what you're doing. Yes.
What I want to understand, what does that mean for you? And then just a recap, like let people know what your final thoughts are and how has this conversation been for you? And just leave them with a positive kind of outlook.
Sure.
Well, their day, if they're listening to this at night or in the morning, commute, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what does making it happen mean to me, or what does that look like to me? I'll start with that. Find what you love, not what you need to love forever. You don't have to get married. You don't have to make vows. And even if you do, you can change them if you need to. You shouldn't try to, but at the end of the day, find what you love and do it every damn day. Do it as much as you possibly can, over and over and over and over again, and just love it. And if you really love it, like if you really, really love it, it will be easy. You don't need motivation. You don't need to hear a Gary Vee video. You just do it. You want to do it. So many people were like, like somebody said this to me today. They were like, I really wish I knew more about politics. I'm like, okay, so turn on CNN or turn on Fox News, turn on something, turn on politics, read the newspaper, or do whatever, read some articles. They're like, yeah, well, I was like, no. So then what you just told me is bullshit. And it's okay. It's okay that you want to know about politics. Like, you don't need to. You don't need to know about what went down in the election or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter to you. It's okay. But it's not okay to somebody who loves it. If I love the stock market, I'm going to check the stock market every day. If I love creativity and I love video and I love story, I'm going to watch YouTube videos every day. And not only am I going to watch YouTube videos, then I'm going to make YouTube videos. Or I'm going to do whatever it is that I think is the way that I get to participate in the art that I want to create. And so, if you really believe in it, if you really believe in what you want to do and you're really passionate about it, just do it. And then stop overthinking like, oh, is this the thing I have to do for the rest of my life and my career? No, I ran an indoor skate park. It was my first business. I'm no longer running an indoor skate park. But I learned a lot from it and it helped me do what I'm doing now. Right? So you don't have to do what you're going to be passionate about forever. Sometimes I'm passionate about reading books, and other times it's the last thing I want to do. Right? Sometimes I'm passionate about like hanging out and drinking a beer on a beach. And the other times I'm like, oh, this is boring. So just do what you're passionate about. But when it comes to your career, there's certain things that you're clearly passionate about. And if you can't discover your passion, turn off Netflix. Turn off this podcast immediately. If you don't know what you're passionate about,
Mhm.
get off this podcast, go take a giant dose of mushrooms or just like something.
Yeah.
Go do an ayahuasca retreat or go jump in a cold river and wake the fuck up because you fucking know. Stop pretending like you don't know.
100%.
You're just lying. And I never understand that. I never understand. Oh, how do I find my passion? Fucking like, just what would you do if you had to do nothing? Like if you had millions of dollars, or you could just do whatever the fuck you wanted all the time. What would you do? Do that. You know what I mean? Like, and everything is about, like, even people are like, well, what if I like watching Netflix? Great, become a movie critic. Like, figure it out. Like, there's so many ways. There's a job in everything. I love to make this joke. There are people who get paid to make quicksand porn.
What?
Quicksand porn. It's hilariously specific, and that's what the point of it. That's the joke. There are people who get paid, who like make a living making porn that's about people getting stuck in quicksand. I don't even have to be naked. That's a job. That's a job. That's somebody's job out there in the world.
Wow.
Wild.
Yeah.
Right? That's to me, that's wild. So you could do whatever. I know that sounds crazy as fuck, but you could just do whatever and you'll find a way. And if you're goddamn fortunate enough to have an hour to listen to this podcast, you're fucking privileged as fuck. 50% of the world doesn't even have the internet. You fucking idiot. Just get up and do it. And I'm not trying to hate on anybody who's saying it, but like, just do it. Just do it.
No, that's out of love. Yeah. You're like, it's what's motivating. I'm just like, let's
go.
Right,
just do
I
it.
want to film.
Yeah, make it happen. Just make it happen. Over and over and over again. Just make it happen. And so what's the wisdom that I say that I have to leave people with? If you don't know how to make it happen, or you don't know where to start, you're going to make the excuse. I get it. Find somebody who's walked the path before you and hire them. Pay them as much money as you're comfortable with and some, and then you'll make it happen. So if you can't afford $500 a month, but you thought you can afford $350, you can afford $500. Because the energy you'll get from making that leap and the confidence you'll gain from making that leap, if you show up and that person shows up for you too, but let's assume that both those things happen, you show up and they show up for you too, that energy leap says and screams to the universe, I'm ready. Give me more. And that's abundance. That's like the secret written, you know what I mean? Like, but there's no secret. Secret is just do it over and over and over and over again. Make it happen. That's a brilliant name for a podcast.
I love it. Just do it is how I started in this career of mine. I got a job in creating content when I didn't make content, but I just wanted to do it, and I got the job, and now I'm doing it full time. Like,
power to you, brother.
Thank you. I so appreciate you coming on the show, letting me use this awesome studio.
Oh, it was easy for me. I didn't have to go anywhere. It was perfect. I just had to like press a couple buttons, turn on a couple lights. No, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
It was so nice to meet you. Thank you guys for listening to the Making It Happen podcast. My name is Kyler Miles, and we are signing out. Thank you so much.